Hello and welcome to another episode of Chestnut Checkers. I am Keith Riddle here with my co-host Jordan Tampien, as usual. And today we're the hosts. Today our guest
if you want me.
is Luc Jasmin. Throw it down. Today our guest is Luc Jasmin. Luc, I always start people off with asking, are you Spokane native?
I'm not.
Not.
But I've been here, half of my
no
life.
sweat. It's just an opener for me. I always just like to find out.
We like to know which region of Spokane you're from, too.
Look, I should count. I've been here half of my life. I'm originally from Boston.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
What brought you out west?
a lady.
A lady.
It didn't quite work out. But laid roots here, and I love Spokane. I love the pace of life here. I love the ability to be able to create. Here. I love visiting Boston, but the pace of life is pretty fast, and you don't really get to enjoy life as much.
Yeah. How long have you been out in Spokane?
So I came out 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. So
pushing 15, 16 years, something like that.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah. Okay. We'll accept you.
Yeah. There we go.
At this point, it is.
Yeah.
As if I'm some sort of authority.
Just the gateway. Anytime you have generational families here, you get to be a gateway to it.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get started. But Luc, tell me a little bit about your story and not just what brought you out west, but what you do in Spokane, because it's super interesting.
Yeah. Kind of jack of all trades, but I think everything that I've delved into has just been out of necessity or just life. So I'm first generation Haitian American.
Okay.
Both of my parents came to the United States to pursue higher education. My mom went into nursing. My dad went into accounting. And they ended up staying. Both of them are citizens now, which is really cool to be able to see them go through that process. And I just grew up always navigating things, navigating systems, trying to figure out like how to connect with folks. Back in Boston, it's kind of like the United Nations, right? Like every single town has its own personality and character.
Yeah.
Like you could go to one place, like the Irish are in South Boston, and you could go hang out with them. But there's populations of Haitians, Jamaicans. So it was cool just being able to engage with different people, and I think that I carry that still to this day. Just being able to just find commonalities with folks. Moving out here to Spokane in 2008 was really interesting, right? Like I just graduated with a degree in elementary education. My fiance, soon-to-be wife at that time, came out here to work at a local CPA firm. She's from here. She's from Spokane. That's kind of how we ended up here. And I remember back in 2008. Spokane wasn't as developed as it is, now.
It was not.
Yeah. So when I came out, I was like, "What did I just do?" But one thing about the people of Spokane is they remind me of East Coast in a sense of like the loyalty, and working hard. Work ethic is a thing out here. And I think there's just kind of that natural respect. Like, hey, if you're about doing great things, if you're about working hard, you have no issues with folks here in Spokane. So
that's cool to hear you say. It's weird. Like I said, when you grew up somewhere, you don't know anything else than where you grew up, right?
Right.
And so growing up here, I had like the opposite experience. I had to go different places and I'd be like, this is crazy, right?
Big town.
Yeah, because you just don't, it's a different experience. But I remember first time I went to San Francisco, I had that similar experience where I was like, they had like a Chinatown. It was like it's like a true Chinatown. Chinatown in San Francisco was like legit, and I just remember thinking like, this is insane. Like it was like a movie to me, right? I was like in Spokane, I'm like, we have like an Asian market,
like
an individual building,
or something. But that culture piece is super huge, and coming to from big cities. Or going to big cities versus small towns or mid-size. I don't know what Spokane's considered like a mid-size.
We're in the top 100 now. I think.
Are we?
Yeah. cities in the United States. Yeah.
Largest city between Seattle and Minneapolis.
Well, I feel like we're big, but I don't know how they rank those, right? Because you got the millions, right? You got the New Yorks and the LAs and the San Francisco. And I don't know where it kind of goes from there, but there's like a fairly quick fall off.
Yeah.
Right? You got your top 8 or 10 cities in the U.S. and then you got a bunch of these kind of mid-sized cities. But
well, that's probably some of the resurgence of Spokane is you're getting people that are coming from everywhere else. Like I remember half the idea for Brick West came from the Greenbelt. Okay. So we went down there and they had this amazing
Where's the Greenbelt?
So in Boston.
Oh, okay.
And so it was literally this walkway, or it's green, whatever it's called. I think it's called the Greenbelt. But then they had this pop-up brewery with, like, looking over the water, and there was just hundreds of people there on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. And I was like, this would be really cool if you could put it in an urban setting. Yeah. And so a lot of the ideas, fencing, locations, and things came from actually our tour when we were back east. So
and that is what I like about Spokane is like you can create here. Yeah. Like you can, travel to different places and see cool stuff and say, hey, and bring it back here. And folks, I think for the most part, respond pretty well.
I think they do too, yeah, and that's a big one. But
well, they either do or they don't, right?
That's what I was about to say. You find out quick if your idea is stupid or not. That's for sure.
It's just whether they'll be long term supported. Because I feel like we've all experienced this, but everyone comes out and supports something when it's new, only because it's like interestingly new, right? You're like, that sounds cool. Let's go check it out. But then you'll decide whether you go back once or twice, or if it was just a one off thing.
Yeah, that's why like a tomato street, like those staples up there. Yeah, the good ones.
So, anyways, you get into politics, though. Yeah. Explain that to me. How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, by chance. So, I got into politics by way of early learning. So, I got the opportunity to be able to purchase and run my own early learning center.
Early learning as like an educational
like a child
facility.
Care.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and like I was new to being in management. I was new to kind of running my own small business, and I just kept on asking myself, like, who's making these rules? Like, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I'm the type of person that I'm always going to try to find solutions. So, I started calling like different childcare centers. And back in the day, so this was about 12, 14 years ago. Back in the day, early learning centers didn't talk to each other. Yeah. Okay. And part of the reason is because there was like that fear, right? Like that
competition-ish or
competition, and also they were deathly afraid of licensors. Of licensors coming in and just like finding something to
licensors being like somebody from the state who issues your license to be a early learning center.
Yes. Yeah.
So they didn't want to get shut down or fined or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Just for weird stuff like not having a cap at the back of a toilet or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those are actual violations that people get written up for. So long story short, I started reaching out to folks and just started talking about what my issues were. And I'm like, hey, do you have this issue too?
Does this seem crazy to you too?
Yeah. And long and behold, like I ended up not only talking to childcares in Spokane, but like across the state. And I realized all of us were having similar issues. And I was like, we got to do something. So we formed an association, and we said, hey, one thing that we're going to do is we're going to get in every committee, group, whatever, that's making decisions about what's happening in childcare. We're going to get representation. So we hired a lobbyist. Mind you, I had no clue, what I was doing, right? Like it was just like, hey, this we couldn't continue this, right? And through that work, we've been able to pass major legislation to be able to help childcare. Folks are starting to understand the importance of childcare. Which back then it was just like, get out of my face.
Watch my kid while I'm going to work. Right?
Exactly. but folks are understanding. I mean, we still have work to do, but that's kind of how I got into it. And some of the legislators, they were like, you know what, like. You know about this position, and it's the position that I'm currently in right now, which is external relations. They're like, we think you'd be good for this. So they referred me to then Governor Inslee, and that's how I got in that role. And
So you work as like I guess I'm just trying to name it here, but it'd be like external relations for the governor of the state of Washington.
Yeah, and I cover the 9 eastern counties. And basically what that is it's a liaison position. So I'm really meeting with community, listening to what's really happening, what the needs are. And I'm talking to policy on a regular basis and talk to the governor once a week. And, I informed them, hey, this is what we need to put in place. And we had a roundtable last week, a housing roundtable, really smart people who are in the field, who are doing it. And they were able to tell our housing policy person, hey, this is what we need. These are the barriers to housing because we have a major housing issue. And, my job is to be able to facilitate that and also stay on our policy folks to make sure that's what comes to fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see the more I get into developing or even the small business stuff. I think it's easy when you start a business because of how much is on you to put your head down and just like, all right, bill came in, pay the bill. This popped up. Oh, I guess we have to change this. Okay, this came in. Like most of our businesses really ran through COVID. So like we had our head on a swivel pretty much every day because you're getting a new, hey, you can have one garage door open and not the other, and you can have 25 people, but you have to have this.
Yeah.
And I remember getting through that, and I was like, I really have to pay attention more to go further upstream.
Yeah.
Because by the time we're catching it at the end, it's already been influenced all the way down. I just got to implement it.
Right.
And I think that's one, as I'm seeing on the development side, speaking of going to that panel, was like, the more I can look at how do we fix affordable housing. Well, all of a sudden I was on panels for the BOCA regulations. Yeah. So we got rid of densities in the certain areas. And you realize that, okay, what does that mean? Well, now I'm going to talk to investors and they can take a single family lot, and instead of what they were waiting on was put one house, we can put 4.
Yeah.
And so you're watching kind of goal affordable housing down to, okay, now you can afford to build on a lot.
Right.
And I've been way more impressed with that side of it that I think most people don't know how to get involved. And then you think there's just people that are self-interested directing all that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's not the case. But anyways, I think it's one as a business owner, I wish I would have done that sooner. Was just got more involved at that level of it to help. Not that you, I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because as growing up, right? Like I can remember reading, like I guess back in the day, they didn't even call them history; they called them social studies books.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
Wasn't history yet.
Wasn't history yet. But I remember like reading social studies books or history or watching the news. But the politics was always this thing that seemed so distant. Right. Like these people are just, they all live in Washington, D.C., and I don't really know who they are, but they make the rule. And then as you get older, you're like, no, it's like your neighbor Larry over here who sits on like this committee. It's like you don't realize how like grassroots and organic it can be, or a lot of times that's at least where it starts.
Right.
Yeah. And then even when you have that aha, you still have this thing, but I still don't know how to get involved.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, I see it now, but now it all still seems like, where do I start? And then will it make a difference? You kind of have these whole conversations, but I remember I don't know why if they don't teach it well in schools or whatever, but for me personally, it was like, I was probably like 30 something before I even realized like I could make an impact.
Well, and it's not, I mean, I agree. And what I would suggest for anybody is just, reach out to me, reach out to Jordan, or even just look up who is my local legislator and literally call them and ask them all the questions. They work for you. So, I know there's a lot of folks who are a fan, of government, right? Mm-hmm. And I understand it. And for me, I think government definitely has its place. Obviously, I work in government, and I think government is as good as the people informing it. Mm-hmm. And like you said, a lot of people, they just have their head down and they're just, going through. And those are the folks that we really need to be able to speak up and share when, certain policies are going to be very detrimental. I truly believe most policy, especially in a local or state level, it's done with good intentions. Mm-hmm. It's just done by people who sometimes have no clue about that, particular industry. So the more we can get folks reaching out to legislators, reaching out to folks like me or Jordan, I think the better, because we do need folks involved. And to your point, I think we do need to figure out how do we get this in schools more, because not only with how can you affect policy, but financial management or just, anything in regards to finances. That's not really taught in school at all either, right? Yeah. And you would think those are two of the main things that we probably should be teaching
folks. You're going to have to deal with every day.
Yeah,
so true.
I'm surprised they don't actually teach you, this is a bunny trail, but they don't teach you more about taxes too and filing your taxes. Because if you just graduated at 18 years old, you have no idea that like you got to do taxes the next year. And you're like, wait a minute, what? I remember that first time, I'm like, what do I got to do? So, by the way, if you don't do it, you can like go to jail or something. I'm like, wait. I got to tell people how much money I made and where I worked. That's weird. Anyways. What I love about what you're saying, though, and what I love about talking to people like you and hearing your story is that even you kind of fell into it accidentally or incidentally, I guess. But like when you say look up who your local legislator is, I think another thing that for me still is foggy, and I know for a lot of people is like the basic structure of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like the structure of government, like whether it is like the governor or the mayor of your city or like legislator, like I'm like, well, what is a legislator? How many legislators are there? Like, what are they, like that basic, it's not even, you have to self-learn it or somebody in your family has to be in politics or explain it to you to really understand like the structure of government, period. Like who do you go to with this specific issue or problem? And I think most people just don't know. And so you bitch at the water cooler at work and then you both go your separate ways and not much changes. Because you're like,
I think that's why government gets the rap on it, right? Because then it's like, oh, they should be fixing it. And you're like, well, but they is you.
Yeah.
Right? Like they is you getting involved in doing that. And the first time I had a taste of it was with Katie and Glow and doing their space. So developer meet. How do you get these buildings? There are so many rules to building out which there's, again, I understand there should be a level of standard that's higher than the other, but we converted that building on Riverside, the upstairs and downstairs, upstairs for Lumen High School and then downstairs for Glow.
Yeah.
And it was from door locking to number of stalls to space to every little thing that needs done. And then everybody's like, well, why is childcare so expensive? And I'm like, well, if you saw how much it costs to actually put that on and how much liability. So kind of I'm interested to see because I think it's a huge cost that people don't take into account.
Yeah.
Like inflationary cost of, hey, now both parents have to work. But what are some of the biggest holes you saw as you were in the early learning space?
So one of the biggest holes that I noticed was the lack of developers taking risks like you did. So I don't know if folks know, but Jordan is one of the first to be able to support childcare, not only childcare, but really, I mean, we had to get a law passed in order for those teen parents to be able to have their children at early learning and not have to come up with, $1,500, $1,600 a month to be able to have their kids in early learning. So, and we were able to get legislation passed, the Early Learning Facilities Fund, because of developers like you. And now I'm getting calls on a regular basis from developers that want to mix childcare with workforce housing or other pieces. But you were one of the pioneers of that. So I think that's one of the biggest gaps, and I'm hoping that we can figure out how to not only just with childcare, but just in general, do the public-private partnerships and make it easier to do that and make it less cumbersome in the administrative side of things, right?
Oh, because it was super cumbersome. You thought developing a building was hard. It's like the amount of inspections.
Yeah.
And then the things that would get called out, and then the things that don't line up with building code.
Right.
So then you get called out for something. You're like, no, our permit says we can do this. And they're like, well, that's not our permit.
Right.
And so it's these different oversight pieces. Yeah. It was an experience for sure. But yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Lumen High School if you're ever looking for somewhere to give money. It's such an awesome thing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love the idea because I had a couple developers that were looking to do it as part of their workforce housing project because then it's really easy to do on new construction because you can come put all that in right away.
Right.
But as part of that facility, because what I love about it, and then we actually at the Peyton project are setting aside, I think it's 10 units, 12 units. So then literally a parent could live at Peyton, go across the street, drop kid off, go to high school. All the food's there, and then come back. And so even the transportation timelines would change.
Yeah.
And then you're next to STA Intermodal, and STA does a good job that way. But it's like, how can you start bringing some of these features that are everyday costs and make them more accessible?
Right.
But it was, So it's interesting to watch that one even And what's it, 5 years now? 6 years?
Yeah. Well, I think it's close to 7 now.
7? Yeah.
This is unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But I think that'll end up being a bigger piece. So, because we go talk about it, like we were in the affordable housing, and I'm like, well, the housing is one piece, right? It just seems it's the biggest, heaviest focus, but like gas is up, childcare's up, labor's, all those pieces.
And the problem with inflation, especially consumer inflation, is just this creep that you don't, not only do you not control it as a consumer, but you don't necessarily pay attention to, like we pay attention to big ticket items, or we pay attention to things we buy frequently, but like, you know, when people are talking about like the cost of eggs, or people are talking about like, I don't know what they were before, right? Like when people are talking about, I'm like, I don't know, right? Like
never really looked at it.
But that stuff's happening, and it's like, but when I go buy eggs, it's like I'm buying eggs, but they're still relatively, I would say, affordable as far as like things. So, but you don't notice. But then you got to add that over the aggregate. Yeah. So it's like, well, if gas is up 15 or 20 cents, and then eggs are up a half $1, and then but you kind of consciously, you're just kind of like, where is my money going? Like, what is happening? Why do I feel broke? Yeah. But they, you know, it's because you just don't understand that like your cost of living expenses are up 40% in the last 5 years.
Right.
You know?
And that's why inflation has such a detrimental effect on middle class and the poor, right? It doesn't really hurt the rich because you're typically hedged against it with inflation hedging assets. But as you go down, well, if you're on a fixed income of $1,500, you notice everything that goes up. And so then that happens is it's poor nutrition, or those things fall off. And so, but I think this is one I was talking to somebody, and I wanted to say it was $1,800 or $2,000 a month for childcare.
Yeah.
And the person's going to work for $50,000 a year.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is crazy. And I'm like, how do we supplement? And so that's kind of where I was trying to get involved, because they were looking at a site that was way out, like in North Hilliard. Yeah. And I was like, how are people going to get to you? Yeah. Oh, then we need buses. And they're like, well, here's another couple $100,000 for buses. And so that's why when this one, it was the old Spokane Community College building. I was like, come down, we'll make you something nice. And so it ended up being a really cool relationship that way. But I think that's one cost that it's just really hard. And we spend all our time talking about rent going up $50, $100. And I was like, well, I think it's everything else.
So what do you call it? Early learning slash childcare slash anything pre, I guess, like kindergarten or school. Yeah. Is it all private?
It's a mix. So,
it is a mix.
So
there's,
you know, we have different programs based off of varying financial thresholds. So,
but is the government more like in a subsidy role, or do they actually own and run some of the facilities?
There are some subsidy. There really isn't much government run facilities. It's more vouchers.
Oh, okay.
But you know what I would like to see though is to qualify for the state vouchers. It's really low.
Yeah.
And you think about it, like the middle class, working families, that's who's contributing the most to taxes, and
and to the labor force.
And to the labor force. So to me. And I'll say this. I don't know, who your viewership is. Like
we don't know either.
It's like my mom and
but I consider
3 other people. My mom doesn't even listen though. I sent her a clip the other day of the bicep babe gal because she likes American Ninja Warrior, and she's like, "Oh, that's so cool! You got to meet her. How did you meet her?" And I'm like, she doesn't even know I have a podcast.
we just had family pictures. My mom said, we stayed up till 2 watching your last 2 podcasts. I'm like, you watch them? Nice.
My mom even knows I do one.
Thanks, Mom.
But I consider myself a pragmatic progressive. Well, what that means is like, I really believe in social programs that support transportation, that support your early learning, things that ultimately we're paying our taxes for, right? Like we're paying taxes to make cost of living easier, to make things more accessible, and but it has to be done in a sustainable way. We can't just make a bunch of regulations that just kill things, and besides the point. So I say this because I think, in our state right now, one of the things that I'm hoping I'm doing within my role is, figuring out ways where we can really support working class families and making sure that we are getting those tax dollars going to support them. Because, like folks, I hear folks say, well, I don't have any kids. Why should my tax dollars go to
schools?
Yeah, to schools and childcare. And it's like, well, who's when you go to the doctor's office, you want well-trained people, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you drive on the road, you want folks that knew what they were doing to be able to do that. Like I think the more we give to, our folks, especially our youth and working families, the more we actually benefit from that, because we get qualified people to be able to be in those positions. Or a lot of folks too, they're struggling because their coworker might not have reliable childcare. Well, guess what? You have to work longer hours now,
or fill in the gaps,
the gaps, because that is not in place. So we all benefit when we're supporting each other, and I think the most resources should definitely go to middle class working families.
Yeah, and they're so hard because they don't income qualify for most government programs.
Exactly.
That's a really hard sell to say, hey, this person makes sense, single mom, can't afford it. Well, what about this one that works as a new accountant, married couple, new accountant, and a bookkeeper, right? I'm like, you make $100,000. Well, you net 60, 70 maybe. So you're just above every threshold for benefits.
Right. It's a cliff. You hit a cliff.
God, that is so interesting.
And don't get me wrong. I think we should be supporting,
Yeah. It's just hard to spread them around. Like because the STA is an interesting one. I had to get to know it really well because of Peyton, and the team does a great job with it. But maybe I heard some stat, and this could be wrong, but it's only like 5% of the STA's budget is paid for by people that use STA.
Like actual paying customers or people that get on and pay their.
But you also need it to that point, because how do you grow a city? And so then I hear the argument on both, to your point of like, sometimes you have to invest $1, another $1 before you can ever get the 5 down the road. And I think that's a little bit of what you're talking about is to that point of just having the staff, because it's not even that, it's then the burnout of that person who has to cover all the time.
Right.
And all of a sudden positions that need people, a number of people, like don't get filled because nobody wants to face that burnout.
Right.
Yeah. So how do you address this at a state level? Like you get to talk to the governor, right?
Yeah.
Like, as they're and you can say as much as a little, but like how are they prioritizing that? Like how does that get prioritized? Because you have a state budget that has to do it. You have Seattle, which seems to take a bunch of the attention, but how do they look at kind of that kind of affordable housing, the programs and the entitlements?
Well, I think several ways. Number one, I think, and not to toot my own horn, but I think they're doing a great job hiring the right folks, the folks that came from small business, still run small business to be able to help, inform. You need folks that have lived experience to be able to inform. And they're doing a great job about that. The other piece too is we're making sure that we're getting our policy folks out here. We go back a decade, we probably wouldn't see the housing policy person come in and chat with folks that are doing it every single day, especially on this side of the state. And we're making that happen. I'm making that happen, and I think the other piece that we might need to do better, which is kind of to your point, is people, I believe, are afraid of the unknown. When you don't know where your tax dollars are going, when you don't know how things work, I think it's natural to question it and say, what is happening? So I think for us, we need to do a better job of being able to articulate where tax dollars are going, like what percentages. If we were able to show, hey, this is what the West Side gets, this is what the East Side gets, this is how we get to the number, right? I think the more we inform the general
like transparency
public,
on it, you know what I mean? Like I think and transparency that's well distributed. Like I think the other, because I feel like every time I have one of these conversations, someone's like, well, you can get that information if you just go to this place or read this article. I'm like, how would I know that?
Right,
and B,
right.
Then now you're putting it back. The onus back on me is not to say it's like, somebody's fault, but it's like, well, it's their fault for being uninformed. And I'm like, well, you're making it really hard for them to be informed, right? Like,
absolutely.
And I feel like the onus should be the other way around. Like the government should take on the onus of not only the transparency, but like getting that information out and getting feedback from people about that information. Does this make sense? Do you agree with it? And I don't know that it's done that way all the time necessarily.
Well, especially now, right? Because, information, we've never been in a time like this where information could be shared so easily and it's so accessible.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, back in the day, I remember the rotary phones and, all that, or like writing letters and sending that. We don't need to do that anymore. So I think we need to, as government, find effective and efficient ways to be able to, like you said, make sure the information meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
Instead of having people try to figure it out on their own, especially when folks are tired.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're going through a whole day. You're trying the best that you can to pay your bills and provide for your family. Like not a lot of people have that extra time to be searching for information that they should be getting.
Yeah.
And I think they just won't do it, right? Like time has just proven that they won't do it in the sense of, you're a single parent, working a job, got 2 kids. Like the last thing you're going to do when you got a spare minute is go research local legislation policy or budgeting information at the state level. So I mean, and then you get that. So I guess it brings us to a good point. But then you kind of get this divide, right? Like you get the people who are just uninvolved, really uninformed, essentially, but also uninvolved. Have opinions, have the right to vote, but are not following along. And then you kind of have this select amount of, I wouldn't say elite, but people who are involved and people who understand how the game works. But then also, I think it's easy for them to be dismissive of the common people because they're like, well, I'm making this decision for them in their best interest, and they don't know that it's in their best interest, but we know it's in their best interest, and they're just really kind of uninformed and checked out. But that's where I think the dark side of politics can come in, right? Is you get the few making rules for the many, and the many have their head down and are just working hard or tired.
Right.
And that's where, I mean, it can be very noble and it can be very good and it can be very, the few take care of the collective is a good idea as long as the intention is good.
Right.
It can also go sinister and dark really quick.
Because human nature sets in. So,
as long as you have the will of the collective, right? Because you think about it, you're on a fixed income, retired, so you have no way to make more money, and now you're voting on a levy for the schools.
Yeah.
You don't have grandkids. You're not thinking about the future of the work labor market, and I think that's sometimes where it gets thrown off a little as well, is that ultimately we're all self-intentioned. Right? You're going to vote based on how you want that. Like I'm going to those meetings because I don't want a policy going the other way that affects what we're doing. And
you have a self-interest.
And so to your point is now all the people that show up influence that more.
Yeah.
Right? So there wasn't 2,000 people at that round table. There was 20.
Yeah.
And so you start realizing that is why it's shaped and shifted a certain way. Like I still look at the Urban Growth Management Act.
Yeah.
So you look at how that line's drawn, right? And my thought, you would take a rectangle kind of on the shapes box, expand it out, or a circle, right? And then drop it there. No, it zigs, it zags, it's up, it's out. And you're like, that owner had a meeting with the council member.
The only reason
and that got moved, here. Right? And you look at it and you're like, that is the most crazy line drawing I've ever seen. And so I think that to that point, because we had a council member Bingle on, and it was fascinating because you forget how many decisions are made locally even. Like we always think, hey, it's Washington and Seattle's. I'm like, but we make so many decisions locally about how we politic and collect and do those things. So it's one of the bigger pieces. Like I can't say I'm a fan of it, but I also see the need to be involved at that level.
Well, and I think you raised a good point, right? Like we do have folks who are on. I think one thing we could work on government-wise is realizing one size doesn't fit all.
Yes. Yeah. Correct.
Right, and I think during the housing roundtable we had last week, I think that was very evident that we need to regionalize things, right? Because we're not like Snohomish. We're not like King County. And we need that flexibility to be able to, whether it's how funds are spent or certain codes, we do need to regionalize. The other thing that I think we need to get better at as government are waivers.
Yeah.
Because like that elderly person who's on fixed income, what if there was a waiver for them? Put in on that levy or, whatever is going to pass, guess what? They're probably going to be more apt to see the benefit more, right? If they didn't realize, oh, shoot, like, and I think folks, we do carve outs all the time, but I think we do the carve outs in ways that don't necessarily benefit the whole. But I am very empathetic and sympathetic to, especially that example, folks on fixed incomes. And I wish we explored that more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the human nature side, but what makes the headlines is the gas tax went up another 5 cents, right? And so, but I think it hits the headlines because you understand the direct implication. Gas price here, I pump gas, I need to fill up a couple times a month, like versus like when you think long term of what a school levy not passing does.
Yeah.
And instead it's like, well, are they using the money responsibly?
Yeah.
I'm like, pretty sure they are. Like, there's only so much you can do with it. Teachers are still buying their own school supplies, right? Yeah. So if you were governor, what's the first agenda thing you would attack?
I think, and I'll probably get in trouble for it, but I think Ferguson's doing a good job of listening to all folks, regardless of I don't think being an extremist lasts long, right? Because you could push all this, but then you're gonna equally have that. I saw the Einstein picture out there, and I was like, So how do we get to the middle? How do we compromise? How do we figure out what's gonna work for majority of folks? And that's what I would do. And I do think Governor Ferguson is trying to do that. He's trying to find that middle ground. He's getting hit really hard by different extremes. But I think that's just the most sustainable way to do things. And, it's the same thing that I mentioned before. I think we need to figure out how to get accurate information to folks. There's so much misinformation out there. It's insane. And I don't think you're going to be able to drown out all the misinformation, but we got to do our part as far as making sure that I think there's a lot of sensible people out there that if they get accurate information, they'll be like, oh, okay, they can piece it together. And I don't think we're doing a great job at that. No. And the last piece that I would do is meet people where they're at, really hear what folks are going through, what their needs are, and really figure out how we can do that.
Well, it's super interesting. I met with she's council president, right? Betsy.
Yeah.
And because it was right after there was that vote about, I think it was the no loitering, but now you could sleep on somebody's property for 7 days before you can remove a camp. So this massive thing. If you're on a developer, it really sucks. If you're a citizen, it sucks. If you're a nonprofit, it sucks. Like there was just no win. And then they voted down, but then all of a sudden they brought it back and passed it 3 days, right? And I was just like, hey, I just want to understand this one. Like, what happened here? And he goes, she is the best if you ever get a chance, take her to coffee. She is the best human. Yeah. She's like, we're just going about it 2 different ways. We both want this end goal. He goes, but Jordan, the reality is we can't. It takes 48 hours to move one of those camps anyway, because you have to get all the stuff together. You have to have a clean team. There's needles, who knows? And I think what I realized after meeting with her, because if you're just a developer looking at it, you're just trying to ruin property values. And you're like, she's not. Yeah. So that's not our goal. What she's doing is trying to figure out, hey, what makes sense here? And then everybody takes their angle. And I think where the disruption comes is that misinformation allows a developer to take a path of, look, city council never works with anybody. And you're like, well, they vote this way, but what if we propose something that allowed for us to see that angle, right? I don't think the council's just sitting there stewing over, all right, we're going to screw over these guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the kind of the sentiment. And that's why it's really hard for me to get behind, because I'm like, wait, that's not a solution. We're not looking at solutions now, because all of a sudden it'll pass and you're like, well, now the right's super pissed at it. Hey, this is going to wreck property value. And they said, well, what's going to wreck it is we don't figure out a solution.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the homeless one, it seems to take the forefront of most of those discussions. Right. But it's, when I talk to her, she's like, well, find a solution. Help me find a solution. Where is that property? Because you put it anywhere in Spokane, they're going to be pissed.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. And so they're going to be pissed here, but now we're going to put it over here. And so it's like, how do we get there? And I think if people could set aside that agenda for a little while and just be like, all right, we all know we want the same thing here. Yeah. And then here's some ideas to get there. Kind of like a business would, but it was super interesting to hear that. She's like, no, that wasn't it at all. But if you read the news article,
yeah,
again, I'm now a little more sensitive to news articles and headlines. But if you just read the news article, it looks like, no, they bypassed the whole system to get there. And the mayor's calling down to make sure they change it. And you're like, did they?
Yeah.
Maybe she was trying to call and ask, hey, what happened there?
Right.
And I think we jump so fast to that, like, vindictive side.
Absolutely. But, I will say, though, really quick, I do think we do need to figure out a solution to our fentanyl issue. And, one of the things that I'm pushing our office to do is look at insurance. Because, treatment is very expensive. And we need treatment to not be as cost prohibitive. We need more folks to be able to access it. We need more detox facilities because, a lot of the folks, especially when we're talking about homelessness, I think folks don't realize how many, women and youth that are either couch surfing or homeless themselves, right? Like, I think,
we think the street people, right?
Right.
Like, we think of people on the street sleeping behind a dumpster in an alley or on someone's property. Those are homeless. We don't realize the families or the other people.
Exactly. But if we're solely focusing on the people that we see, majority of them are suffering from mental health.
Yeah, or drug addiction.
So how do we solve that?
Because it's typically the only thing that would keep you in a state where that would be acceptable or that you would tolerate it, right? Going back to that single parent with a kid, you get some sort of homeless crisis where you're going to call a friend or try to sleep on a couch or find a roof or something. Now, you're a homeless person. You're not on the street. If you're living in what I would consider like the hardship of the actual street, it's mental health or drug addiction. It's usually the thing that keeps them there, right? Because nobody else would typically want to sleep on asphalt or in dirty conditions or without that kind of stuff. It's just a tough situation.
And I think that's what we need to invest in, and I think we need to hold insurance companies accountable. Not just with that, but I mean, like, you look at your home insurance, you look at, we talked about...
I think that was one of the better ones I heard. I didn't even think about that. Property insurance and how much had gone up for some of these nonprofits trying to do buildings, and it's millions. I mean, like, that could go all the way back into helping more resources.
Right. Car insurance, health, oh my gosh, come 2026, I don't know how many people are going to be covered under medical insurance. So
the insurance thing is a whole nother ballgame. But what's interesting that this like ignorant view that I see is like, as a business person, it's like we all have the ability to go in business and out of business. These insurance, especially at large levels, they seem to like just protect their profit margins, right? It's like them losing money is not an option. And they'll talk about these wildfires in California, and the insurance took a bath, and it's like, but then they're immediately going to put in measures to where that like never happens again, or they're covered for it. And so it's like they keep rising because they're just protecting their they're the ones that can't lose. And then if they lose, the government bails them out, which is the taxpayers' money. So I'm like, it'd be really interesting to be in a business where you just can't lose, right? Like, or losing is subsidized. But the people that are paying for it, like the whatever policies you need, they're not. The premise of insurance is to protect the user, and yet they're hedged against their own user, right? To protect their profits, and if they don't have the profits, and I guess I wouldn't have as big of a problem with it if, you weren't finding out that their executive bonuses were like $30 million, right?
Yeah,
I'm like, if you're telling me you need to stay in business, I'm with you. I'm like, dude, we need to have insurance companies stay in business, because if they all start going under and we can't insure stuff, we have a problem.
Exactly.
But when you're like CEO just took a $35 million bonus and is flying on a private jet, I'm like, I don't get this, right? Like, you're protecting not just your profits, you're protecting an extremely high level of profits, right? And I think that it's you get in these kind of paradoxical situations when it comes to those situations, and I understand what the city council is saying, or the governor or the mayor, when they're like, help me with a solution, right? Because they're banging their head against the wall too a lot of times, being like, we get it, we know it's broken, but
and an outsider looking in, like Jonathan's Councilman Bingle's interview, like, just exposed all the things that he has to think through before making a decision that you and the public would have no idea. Some rule, some reg, something on some level. And so it's not always as straightforward, because insurance was the first one. I was like, that should probably be a government thing. right? That's probably the best fit for one because it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's just implementing it at that level. And it's something that without it, it just doesn't work. But then you go look at like Canada or even in London. But I remember in London where I interned, the guy just bought his first house at like 45 and he was a partner at the law firm. I think they were taxed at like 66%.
Yeah.
It's like my greatest fear with like IRA accounts and all those. It's like you may be putting your money in at the lowest tax level that we ever experienced because how else are you going to cover it? To your point, like it is government backstopped, right? The big issue in California was that the fund ran out.
Yeah.
Well, guess how they are going to fund that fund? Everybody's property taxes will go up.
Go up, yeah.
And so we forget that sometimes it seems like, oh no, Luke has insurance on his house. Well, no, everyone is insuring Luke's house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you forget that part of it was when we had the Medical Lake fires, that was probably what jumped up ours even more.
Right.
And so because you can't put it all on those guys rebuilding their house.
Right.
Because it would be unaffordable.
Well, a lot of them are struggling to find insurance. Yeah. Because they just got dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then you're like, well, now your greatest asset that likely has a large loan on it can't be insured. Or if it is, it's cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how much, I guess maybe I'm not that smart too, but how interconnected everything is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I love.
Now, you talk about affordable housing. Well, one of the issues is the insurance. Like our insurance on one of our apartment buildings, like it's almost $200,000 on the Peyton for builder's risk policy. And I'm like, what if you had to put that across every unit? Well, who's actually paying the insurance then?
Well, the people. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just...
Well, it's one of the reasons I love this podcast, but even having these conversations is like getting the big picture view, right?
Yeah.
That 30,000 foot view where like it just makes you, no matter how smart you think you are in a moment, it makes you like, oh, I never thought of that, or that totally makes more sense now. And I think the biggest trap that I see that people get into, and myself included, is it's so easy to think dualistically. Like it's so easy to think black and white, left and right, up and down, they're for it or they're not. Yeah. And then as you get older and you get more experience, you learn like it's really a spectrum, right? It's this, there's a bigger picture here. Then the hard part though is that sometimes seeing that spectrum just makes it more confusing and less of a relevant or less of a no solution.
Clear.
There's not necessarily an easy solution. And I think the general public they like black and white. The news medias love polarization, right? You're either left or you're right or this and that. And people like easy, simple solutions like, well, do it or don't do it. And it's like, well, it's okay. Yeah. But not everything's that simple. And then that then creates the scenarios that we're in with so many of these things is like there's not a really simple solution. And when you start to look at the solutions, they're regional or they're not going to be the same for everybody, which then people think it aren't fair.
Right.
Or, how come they can do that in Spokane and we can't do it in Seattle or, all these situations. And it's sophisticated. There's no other way to really state it other than I think at the heart of it, government, politics, policy, it's sophisticated. Like there's nuance to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to want to understand it. You have to want to get involved. And if you don't, then it's not necessarily your fault one way or the other, but then it's hard to have a say, right? It's hard to like really complain or to feel like you have a say, but it's like, but you're not involved. Right? Yeah. And to get involved also requires like work and time and energy and effort and reading and education. And it's just one of those things where I think it's a decision for everybody, but it is definitely something that as you get older, for me, I keep saying that like I'm 80 years old, but as I get older, I see the value in, and then go, well, where do I start?
Right.
Like, how do I start?
Yeah. I think, where we start, there's several starting points. Number one is I think we need to start with the things that are easier. There are a lot of things that I think we can agree on that we can just get out of the way. That we don't. Yeah. And I think a lot of times we might let our personal feelings or how we classify somebody.
Well, that's a really good point because when you say something like, hey, we think all kids that go to school should have a lunch.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, yeah. But that's not the thing that will get us involved in politics. What will get us involved in politics is something that we're really pissed off or passionate about. But then we're bringing that to the conversation when we're not really level-headed and open-minded, right? Yeah. So, it's a really good point because I think, if you get involved with the simple things, but they're not necessarily those passions that pull you into it.
You're right.
That polarizing thing that go, I'm going to go get involved next week because not every kid has a lunch, right?
Until it affects your kid. Right?
Until it affects your kid or you're in that situation, right?
Truth. And And I think we're always going to have that, right? We're going to have the complex pieces. I think if we do a better job with the simple things, then going into the complex, I think finding what our collective North Star is. Like, what is our desired outcome? And then, I think we're going to battle about, like, how we get there. But, like, how often do we really clarify what that North Star is? Like, you're business owners. You have people that work for you or work with you. And when folks know clear roles, when they know clear direction, then things are more successful, right? Now, again, that's not going to solve everything, but I think if we can start with the clear roles and the clear North Star, I think we're much better off, right? Yeah. And I don't know if we're doing that.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, and I almost wish people would do it. I try to do this as much as possible, but like before jumping to a conclusion is like putting yourself in the other person's shoes. Like we just like stop doing that.
Yeah.
Like, and now it's all about just getting your opinion across. And you're like, just pause for a second. Like, think of what those people on the board are thinking through.
Right.
What are their constituents thinking through?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's some of the piece that is like lost today. It's just jump through and nope, this is my opinion. You're going to hear it. And I'm like, well, that's fine. I don't mind hearing it, but like, give it a second. Yeah. Maybe then we can come together, because there won't be a solution to this homeless thing till we have a North Star.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the North Star, though, in the homeless situation specifically, is that we all agree, left, right, center, that it's not great. And it's a problem and we need to fix it. That's kind of our North Star. I don't know that I talk to anybody and like, this is an issue that we need to address. Now, I think
how to get to it, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Right. And then now we start to kind of argue and fight about like, well, we should do this first, we should do this second, or we shouldn't. But I think the consensus of like we need to do something about it is there. But there's not quite too much forward progress in the sense of we're still arguing about the way.
Yeah, I had a friend that, like he said, he was telling me that he had somebody come up to him at the grocery store and yell at him because he's on the right side saying, hey, this is what homelessness is looking like. Here's these reports. And she's like, basically her argument was, you don't care about people. And like, but how do you ever move forward when somebody's version of doing anything to assist is you're hurting that person? And I think that's where it's super interesting. I think politicians have a tough task ahead to merge and bring that many mindsets together. If you have somebody that far that way and somebody on the other side of tough love, the only way out of this, we got to force them to do what it needs.
Well, I think we just need to understand not everyone's going to be happy.
Yeah.
Right. I think we do need to come to terms with we're always going to have extremes. We've had extremes from the dawn of human beings, right? So, I do think. And these are just my own personal opinions and views. I think we spend too much time focusing on folks that are extreme. Yeah. And when I have conversations with folks, what I realize is most folks are in the middle. Like most, and if we stopped pandering to folks or trying to change the mindsets of folks in the extreme.
Yeah, and I don't know that we have time to solve all that problem today, but I do see exactly what you're saying, because it's like when you look at the news and the media, and then when you look at the platforms and the things that politicians talk about when they're running for office, it's like 5 things, it's 7 things, it's 8 things. But meanwhile, there's like 1,000 things that need to be addressed with regard to your like the streets and the potholes and the roads and the school. But they're going to talk about like LGBTQ stuff. They're going to talk about like any sort of like highly divisive. You're here and you're here. And that's what we're going to. It's like, can we talk about all the other stuff? Like I got some potholes in front of my house.
Right.
That we all could agree and
I'd like some new sidewalks, and I think that's, how you solve that, I'm not sure of, in the sense of like, I think everyone's got to get on board. Like the media outlets got to get on board, the politicians, but to kind of just say, hey, those are important issues, whatever they are, the war in Ukraine, but we can't centralize all of our energy and conversation and time and stuff over that when we still have all these other things that are just kind of
people to say that.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's definitely like I said, an aha moment for me in just like the last recent few years of like, man, there's a lot that goes into this, but there's also like, what about these things?
Yeah.
Right. The things you notice that need addressed, and then you're like, who's taking care of this?
Right.
why don't I ever hear about this? You know, it's one of those. What are you gonna do, Jordan? Fix it, Jordan.
I just sit back and
Jordan's
watch.
over here rubbing his head.
Like, talk less and less. It's just listening to more and more people. It's just, yeah.
Well, we're getting there, and I think, I really appreciate you guys inviting me to the show. I think having conversations is very important, and it might feel like we're just going in circles, but I know, like, in conversations I have, it definitely gives me perspective, and I think perspective is very important. And I think, the viewers, the folks that are listening, they're getting perspective as well. And there might be baby steps, but I think as long as we're taking those steps, we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, and I don't mean to sound like
cynical.
Throw your hands up or cynical. But for me, it's gotten me more engaged, I guess is kind of my point. Right?
Yeah.
Like I've started to pay more attention or key in or say, yeah, you do got to pay attention. And I think if I could give sort of encouragement to any sort of people who might feel cynical or throw their hands up or the government's all, it's just not to give up, right? Like to stay engaged, because as soon as you become dismissive, it doesn't matter if it's your own kid or your spouse or coworker. As soon as you like give up on something, then it's just doomed, right?
Yeah.
Then it's going to totally get worse. And I think, America is a sweet spot, regardless of what you say about our political system or its current state or blah, blah. It's like we have to care and we have to stay engaged. And just because it's hard doesn't mean to like disconnect.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, one thing that there's a few examples. So one thing that I realize is if you're passionate about something that might not be talked about, find people who are passionate about that too. And you could actually make more headway with that particular thing. An example is there was a bill, I think it was like 2-3 years ago, that was going to affect the salons and the barbershops. And these people never been involved with any politics before. They mobilized and they got folks out to speak up against it. It just nullified what was about to pass. So there is power in reaching out to folks on single issues that might not be the hot topics that are talked about. The other piece that I'll mention is cyclists. Cyclists, they get stuff done for
bicyclists.
Look at all our pedestrian lanes downtown.
You know what I mean?
Lanes.
Like they're passionate about making sure that there's bike lanes, that things are safe. For cyclists, and they get together and they just focus on that issue, and they've been very effective. So I do think there's ways to be effective if you're laser focused, and you find people who have the same passion and desired outcome as you. So are we going to solve homelessness? I think we could work on it, but probably not. But you could probably solve if there's bike lanes and if there's, particular things like access to childcare around. So,
yeah. And I think the other part of that, I always talk about stacking brick, but it's also not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
Like, it is getting better. It doesn't look better. Remember we were talking, who was it with? I forgot. And they're like, are you sure it's getting better? I'm like,
it's Tom.
Tom's like, are you sure? And I'm like, but it is, right? It's just sometimes all we target is this visible look here instead of maybe we're building the foundation to come at it better. And I think it's also giving the process some time. And then the other one I just keep thinking is like, just because it's not your problem today, doesn't mean it won't be your problem tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think too many people take that approach of like, I did. It hasn't affected me yet. Like, I'll deal with that when it's something I need to deal with. And now I'm like, well, if I would have been involved 4 years ago, this piece that matured and got to here would never have happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's one piece that's too easy to say, I don't have kids going, I don't have to worry about school lunch.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, well, if we give them lunch, they may stay in school better.
Right.
And actually not be starving. And all of a sudden we have this new workforce it's a really good way to look at it that I think too many people take the short-term approach to.
Yeah.
And I don't think legislators changing every 4 years, every 2 years helps anything either, because it's hard to build stability around it. But I think that puts even more onus on the people to be the consistent ones. So, yeah, interesting. It's a good way to look at it, though.
So how, like, when you talk to the governor, how does that conversation go?
Hey, Gov.
I mean,
I'm just curious, like, how that goes. Like, you say you talk to him weekly?
Yeah. So I do weekly reports.
Okay.
So there's different events and folks from different industries that I talk to, and I hear about what their needs are, and that's usually what I'm doing. I'm just kind of going over like, hey, we need smaller lot sizes and ways to be able to do that, right? So it's typically like higher level things.
Who do you decide who you meet with?
Ooh, good question.
Yeah, there's flexibility. I think there's a lot of stuff that happen and things pop up, right? Like there are issues that definitely, like housing. Mm-hmm. That's an issue,
sure,
right? So I'm really focusing on that.
But what I'm saying is, like, originally, did you get like kind of guidelines from the governor or the state to say, hey, go out and meet with these sorts of people? Or do they kind of expect you to go into the community and just randomly meet with people that seem to have issue and then report back to them? How does that? Both,
yeah. There are areas that Gov wants to focus. So this past legislative session, he really wanted to focus on public safety, right? And a lot of times it's based off of what we're hearing from constituent services. So people calling or emailing the governor's office and seeing what those top, issues are, right? But this upcoming year, he really wants to look into housing. How can we support housing? Workforce development. We really need to figure out how we're going to build our workforce. I'm glad he wants to focus on early learning because that's affecting so many different industries. And then the last one that I would say that I'm hearing he really wants to focus on is health, especially our rural health, and
like healthcare or health providers.
Yeah. So yeah, we definitely get like, okay, these are some priority areas, but I do like the fact that we get to look at all things as well and see what's cropping up because it's not always the same. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
That is awesome. I mean, I got a million more questions. I gotta let you go.
Still 1 hour. So.
Thank you so much for joining us. Love to have you back again sometime if you got some time and dive deeper into some of these things. I just now I feel like I got 15 more questions. I'm like, is this an elected position? Is this an appointed position? Got
hired on. I had the interviews, send my resume and everything. But a lot of it too is recommendations from community leaders, which is really cool.
It's awesome.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of how.
Sounds like one of the coolest jobs in the world, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm like, that sounds awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. It is. I would say too. It is pretty stressful as well, right? Like
for sure.
Like going to like Ponderay County, that's hard.
Yeah, because
you see the issues they have with infrastructure. You see the issues that they have with healthcare, and and part of the time too, it's like, do the folks want to help bring about the solutions that they need as well? Yeah. Like, and I know we got to get going, but like taxes.
Yeah.
Like being heavily taxed, not great. Some taxes, probably need that for like basic infrastructure. Yeah. And, going to places that refuse is tough.
Because you have that. My old circuit when I was at WSU, I was with Extension, and so I had to go around the state. But most of it was like, how do you go build business on Main Street of rural towns? Yeah. So you'd go to Republic, Washington. Yeah. And so you're ignoring the fundamentals of business. Like there's humans there. Yeah. And you're trying to help them build up this Main Street approach to it when Hecla Mining decides to leave town. Right. And how do you come in behind the wake of some of that? It's super interesting. And that's why I think it speaks to the diversity of Washington State in general. Yeah. You go from one of the greatest metros, arguably one of the biggest metros, to some of the smallest pieces that really don't want help. Yeah.
I feel like that's probably an issue with almost every state that has a major city, right? Like Illinois and Chicago, exactly. California, it's you go to certain parts of those states and they just feel so different.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see what innovations come out because we were like my last year there, they were working on telehealth. Yeah. So that was a big one where you can basically get somebody online. And then I saw Amazon just released theirs. So basically you can get a doctor on a webcam type thing. Webcam. Can't believe I call it that.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
I don't know. So, but no, I'm excited to see what you do with it. I think you're the perfect fit for it. Like if I was going to pick somebody, you're just so good getting in those groups and understanding it. So
I appreciate it.
Wow, we appreciate what you do, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. All right, you guys. Thanks for listening to today's episode. While you're out there, would you please do us a favor and give us a like, subscribe, or a follow, whether you listen on Spotify, iTunes, or YouTube. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you don't mind while you're there, give us a 5-star review. Maybe write a review. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to give it a like. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.